Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for the opportunity to present this kind of a topic, which is hopefully highly strategic, but maybe a little bit different to the other presentations, because it's more mathematical and algorithmic. In any case, I hope that the pragmatic results would be valuable even for, let's say, policy strategy and so on. One of the key questions what every defense resource is asking is how I should build my forces or military forces to be operationally effective in each year within, especially or in terms of future threats or opponent. So it's kind of an optimization question, how much I should invest to be operationally effective, or if I have a particular budget, how I should effectively invest this budget to be as effective as possible. And usually these questions were answered on the security departments in a different way, but mainly through the empirical and intuitive way. And I developed 10 years ago some different conceptual algorithmic approach, which could relatively easily be applied and use it within this kind of framework and put some kind of rationalism within this strategic decision making. Even so, the conceptual framework is relatively easy. The execution of this framework is computationally very intensive and is dependent on a big amount or huge amount of advanced technological components that by these days it's starting to be available, or we are starting to be capable to build this kind of a framework as in initial stages. So even so, the let's say theoretical approaches exists within the military or other governmental sectors for ages, let's say, but the technology right now enables the execution of the theoretical approaches by now. When we talk about the current situation in military capability planning, there is a lot of restrictions, problems, and so on. Some of them are mentioned in the slides. Many of them are grounded within the understanding, conceptual, legal process framework, and so on. But one of the probably key problems was a lack of understanding of advanced technology within the governmental architecture, and the lack of experiences within this kind of technology and implementation within this framework. So this is, I think, the main hurdle and main problem. And definitely, if we will not utilize the technology within the strategic decision-making process, our potential opponent will do that, and we will definitely get some disadvantage within this process. So, as I said, this strategic decision-making is so critical that we should really focus on it and release enormous effort to be effective on that field as possible. Because when we make some tactical mistake, definitely we will lost, but maybe million, 10 million euros. But when we will make a strategic mistake, we could lose the war, and it will be very costly. So, in terms of algorithmic approach, we need to define some mathematical background to a way of the thinking and the solution and so on. When we talk about the optimization of a defense capability, let's say development, we call it configuration optimization, which will employ effectively in the future operational environment. And we could put some, let's say, purpose function on it, and transform it into the mathematical let's say equation or a mathematical express. In terms also to fit within the available budget, and this is kind of a constraint which also could be mathematically described. So there you could see on a slide some initial mathematical approach that we would like to maximize the operational performance and also keep our development within the constraints of a budget or of an available budget. The solution or the approach employs many components from also the theory from a huge or a lot of parts from mathematics, algorithm development, nonlinear dynamic programming, and so on. It's mentioned on a slide. And as I said, actually the key is the maximization of a performance of our future let's say, army configuration, which will perform as best as possible against potential opponent. There is a lot of questions and a lot of problems. Also, we need to, let's say, overcome and redevelop, understand. And one of them is, for instance, how our opponent looks like. So we need a correct prognosis. Probably we will not fit within the one prognosis, so we need to prognose more potential waves of evolvement of our opponent and so on. So there is a lot of other questions and parts we need to understand and overcome within the algorithmic approach. In any case, it's definitely possible. I just present on a slide the 13-step conceptual framework, which could be algorithmically described and actually executed, and which will lead to a final consolidation of an investment strategy in particular areas, and also will tells you how your forces should look like, how many battalions, how many assets you should have to be effectively or to be effective against potential opponent. Because we don't have too much time to go through each point and describe them in detail. I'm just presenting them as a whole scope of points, and let me highlight some of them. One of the key components is armed forces initial model structure, which is relatively easy actually, and this is a structure of army you have, and development of a conceptual model of organization structure, how they could evolve. So you need to implement some kind of rules of the evolvement where you could move or you couldn't move, just to cut down the branches of a rapidly expanding tree. Because if you move within your development through some kind of options, definitely you will go through the tree, optional tree, and this tree could be enormously vast. And if each component from a tree has to be, let's say, further calculated, and if this tree will be vast, you will get to the problem that you will not have computing power to calculate all of these options within the thousands or millions of years. So this tree, normally, if you do not take care of the evolvement of the forces and combination or conceptual approach, could be dramatically vast. So this is one of the hurdle. In any case, it's described within the article I present, and one of the key actually phase is the consolidation of a state model of organization structure. So this is a tree which will describe the potential configuration options which we could achieve within each years, and each combination or each configuration options has to be computationally war-gamed against potential opponent and described by some operational coefficients or by some operational efficiency integrated within the operational coefficient. In each actually model of the forces, you have to also integrate a lot of other aspects or attributes. Some of them is doctrinal evolvement or doctrinal behavior of these units, which also implement additional operational analysis, which are very computationally costly, and generally this task is dedicated to a supercomputer, and even so, this task, the computation of this optimization will take weeks or months just to accomplish. So just to give you an idea. So in terms of the purpose you are trying to achieve and also fit within the budget, you also need to estimate the financial cost of each configuration within the graph, and also this is a mathematical formula, and you could achieve it especially within the initial state. Even so, the calculation of financial investment into each configuration couldn't be easy task and could be a, let's say, a problem of a project by itself. In any case, it has to be achieved or it has to be done in terms of estimation of financial cost imposed into this evolvement or force development. So definitely the state space graph, which will generate the configuration of forces, definitely must be filtered within the available budget just to avoid the problems with the investment in the future. So this is something what also, as I said, could be mathematically well described, and there could be implemented the algorithms which will help on that field. constructive wargaming and maximization of operational efficiency is actually the core business of the solution. So we need to estimate the configuration against potential opponent, let's say, performance, and we need to implement some kind of a model or technology which will tell us how this configuration is effective or not. And one of the best things is to apply the constructive wargaming. It's actually the computer simulated clashes between the components. Usually it is a physical simulator or, based on physical principles. There are the technology on the market right now. Even so, some of them, or even many of the best technology available maybe is not convenient or perfect for that, but we initially could do that or could apply that as a conceptual component. And maybe this could be improved in the future. So this is the key actually aspect, and the valid or the performance or the results will definitely depend especially on these coefficients. If we do not calculate well these coefficients, the results will not be usable, and there has to be focused or light focus on that part. And when we consolidate the whole graph of options, we could easily employ additional mathematical methods like CPM or critical path methods, and so just to search the strategy within the involvement and development of a force to be effective as possible. Here I could show you some kind of software components we use for this evaluation. There is a picture from a French simulator, Mazal, which is one of the most advanced, probably, wargaming simulator on the market. Maybe even not perfect, but definitely convenient for the initial experimentation with that. And down you could see some statistical evaluation of the clashes, because the wargaming has to be done in many times. From one simulation, you couldn't estimate the correct coefficient, so you have to repeat it minimally 100 times, maybe 1,000 times. This actual evaluation will give you the potential, how many times you win, or it tells you how many times you win in the simulation and how many times you lost. And based on that, you could consolidate the operational coefficient. And this will not tell you if you will win in the future, but it definitely tells you the potential you have with this configuration to succeed in certain battles or whatever. And the rest of the picture, you could see my software I'm developing, actually employing these components for searching the critical configurations, which will be positive in terms of rethinking, in terms of development and investment, and so on. It's in an initial stage. Right now, we receive 700,000 euro as a project for that. So it's we are starting with the problematics. Even so, I developed this idea 10 years ago, but sometimes you need to get to the certain point with the technological involvement and also the maturity of the other, let's say, thinking and the ways. And right now, our army is trying to invest seriously into this, let's say, more rational approach in strategic, let's say, development of forces or strategic decision making. So when we get to a conclusion, I think that's the issue of a computer support and decision and enriching the decision making at all levels of command is definitely highly actual. Especially in the strategic domain, there is a big gap within that, because in military we use a lot of simulation technology, a lot of, especially in training, for instance, some analysis and so on. In a research and sciences, more than 80%, 90% maybe by these days is simulated. So with a simulation and these advanced methodologies, actually facilitated within this area, and the military has a big gap in that contrary to a civilian counterparts. And we need to understand that the conceptual approach is highly probably right, but the problem is within the details of each component and within the fidelity of simulation and so on. So even so the concept is right, so it do not necessarily generate the right results if each part of the chain is well designed and well proved and evaluated and so on. And we could tell that actually the theoretical and software or technological solution is already here. We need to integrate it, experiment with that, and it takes some time, and definitely it brings some additional problems to overcome, and I believe that the effort invested in the will definitely pay off. Thank you for your attention.